Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Home Study. This is a podcast for parents, especially those who have children through or are thinking about and exploring foster care and adoption. We're here to help you navigate the world beyond paperwork and placement. Thanks for being here. Laura, it's another night, another Sunday night, just hanging out together, chatting on the
It is.
podcast.
And if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll see that I'm in a completely different spot. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But before I do, let me tell you what we're talking about today. So, tonight we are going to talk a little bit about attachment, which we've talked about before on the podcast. But we're going to talk about attachment, connection, and just how we can facilitate this through play. And we're going to do it in kind of like a ask me anything style. So, Abby's going to ask me some questions. For those of you that's your first time listening, I am an occupational therapist and I specialize in trauma and attachment and sensory. So it should be a fun episode for you guys. So that's what we have in store.
Definitely. And this is, I mean, like a lot of our episodes, this is one that whether you are an adoptive parent, foster care parent, or just a parent, this is going to be applicable to you in so many ways, I think. And just these like real practical episodes. I mean, I enjoy listening to them when I listen to other podcasts because I like take something and I'm like, I could go do this right now. So hopefully it's helpful. Cool. Okay. So Laura, tell us the story. What are you doing in this other corner of your home?
Why am I always in a different place? So I have a place that I normally do the podcast, guys, in my house, and it's in my bedroom, and it's like right by these two closet doors. And I've experimented once before, like maybe last week, I tried another spot, and I was gonna stick with that spot. However, if you would look in my house right now, if I would turn the camera around, you would see it looked like a bomb dropped in this room. And that's because we had to take everything out of the closet, which was not a tidy closet to begin with, because we had a mouse. And I say had past tense because it has passed away in my wall.
Ew, yucky.
So it's disgusting. It is stinky and I'm not sitting over there and it's like
Okay,
a mess.
so how did you discover this mouse? And was there really only one?
Well, I don't know. So we heard scratching like maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and it was like in the middle of the night or like early morning. And wait, my husband has a sound machine that he sleeps with, and so we kind of weren't really positive, and then we would turn it off and then be like, it would stop. It's like, what is that sound? And we do have a dog. And so if we're like, is the dog walking around? Like, what is that? And then I very definitively heard it in the morning. I was like, that is a mouse. And I brought the dog in the bedroom and was like, and he's actually really good at like getting critters. And I was like, Duncan, go get it. And he just like locked on in his scent and he's like sniffing and
Wow.
he's like trying to find it. I'm like, okay, there's very clearly a mouse. Well, we stopped hearing the scratching and we were like, it ran away. Okay. We probably at some point need to find where it was because I'm sure there are mouse droppings in there. So my husband goes into the closet this morning and was like, do you smell something? And I'm like, let me see. And I walk in the closet and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's progressively gotten worse.
Oh, yuck. So what's the next step? Are you cutting out your wall?
According
Or
to the internet and my in laws, the best thing to do is to just leave it and the smell will go away in a few days.
ew.
Cause they're like, you can cut a hole in the wall, but like it's really hard to find them. There's like no way to indicate where it is. And like you could end
Yeah.
up cutting a bunch of holes. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll check back next week to see if the smell remains.
Who knows where I'll be sitting next week?
That's gross. No, we had a similar situation when I was growing up. It was like on our basement stairs, like going down to the basement. In the side of the wall, like, my mom just every time she was walking by, she was like, "Something just kinda smells, like, I don't know what it is," and it was getting worse, and it was like a family of mice, like, it was multiple,
Oh,
not but it was like my mom, I guess, just knew, like, exactly where it was, so she cut that hole out and she found them. So,
she did? Good
yep.
for her.
But I guess if you have more I mean, I'm sure, right, if you have more than one, the scent is stronger, and so she was able to, like,
Well,
pinpoint it
the internet
probably?
did say smell is the best way to find them.
Yeah.
But it's not super like, it actually is kind of hard to figure out, like, where it is.
Yeah,
And I
that's
don't know, it
tricky.
may even be, like, our pantry is on the back of that wall, like, on the other side of that wall,
Oh,
and so it would
hmm.
make sense that it's there because food and,
There's
whatever.
food and scents from the
Yeah,
kitchen.
so I really am not quite sure. Like, I wonder if we went in the like, our pantry doesn't smell, but it could be because there's, like, so many other food in there that, like, we
Yeah,
can't I don't know. So, oh well.
I guess just
It
give it a few days and see how it goes.
we'll just see how it goes.
That sound of scratching, though, is, like, the thing of nightmares. Like, oh, man. I do not like that sound. I can, like, hear it in my I feel like I feel the sound, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't like
It
that.
wasn't that bad for me, but I could see how it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even, like, chipmunks we have, like, chipmunks all over our yard, and they go up the gutters and, like, around all the gutters, so they, like,
Mm.
scratch on the metal, and it every time I hear it, I'm like, "Oh, yuck."
It's like nails on a chalkboard for you.
Yeah. Yeah, plus then it's like, I know that there's a little chipmunk that they run, like, basically under your feet when you walk outside. There's so many of them. So, that kinda freaks me out too. Like, ugh, yuck, like little rodents. Okay, anyways, that was a fun little story time. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so I actually this is very applicable. This topic is applicable because I have been thinking about a couple different things. Our twins, who we are in the process of adopting, they are going to be 8 months old this week. So they're, like, getting very interactive with things, like, I want to be doing a little bit more, like, activity kind of stuff with them. Like, they're past the point of just, like, they just lay there, right? Like, they're reaching and playing and,
Mhm.
like, interacting. So there's that. But then I also so I wanna ask you questions that, like, I have in my list, but also I'll give some personal things too and, like, personal anecdotes. Um and then the other thing is that, like, I've been thinking a lot about, um, just as they develop, like, they're developing at different paces. Like, I can already tell that because
Mhm.
they're different humans and they're on different trajectories, I'm sure. And so even thinking about that of like, okay, if I see one starting to do one thing, like, should I be like kind of working with the other to do that thing? Just some different questions I have like that. And how does it all relate to what they have been through and drug exposure and some, all the different things. Like, how does it all come together? And I've got like two examples in front of me all the time. So, yeah, it'll be fun to ask you some questions about that too.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just kind of set the stage. I know we've done an episode on attachment before, but let's talk first about like how do play and attachment connect in child development overall?
Okay, yeah. So, man, I wish I had this number like written down. It's in the other
Mhm.
podcast actually, I'm pretty sure. But basically kids learn best through play. And there is a study, there's more than one study, but there's this one study that I usually reference, like when I'm doing a presentation or something. And Karen Purvis, so those of you listening may be familiar with her. She is the like founder of TBRI, Trust Based Relational Intervention, which is a very common like method for children that have been adopted or in foster care. And anyway, she has this quote about how children learn through play that shows you how much faster they learn. So basically, you have synapses in your brain, and when you do something that is like repetitive, you learn. You sit your brain sends signals to other places in the brain, and that's how you learn something. But when it's done through play, it's so much faster. And the quote has, like, the exact number of repetitions, and I don't remember that offhand. And
Yeah.
this is not just kids, actually, like, people wanna think this is just kids. Occupational therapy is kinda founded on this, so brief little history for you, but this is related. OT was originated, in World War One, I believe, and it was originally called the Arts and Crafts Movement, and it started with, wounded warriors would come, like, on the battlefield, they would come and they would do rehab, and they found that when they would play card games with them or do beads, like make necklaces and things, you're working on their hands, like say that they had an injury on their hand, but they actually would recover so much faster
Wow.
than if they just gave them like a dumbbell and said, do this 10 times.
Yeah. That is
And
so
so it's the
cool.
same idea that like the more you're forming connections, the more that you're doing something that's enjoyable, meaningful, playful, you actually will recover and learn faster.
So cool. And really it doesn't matter if the child is 6 months or an adult at 60, like, it doesn't matter. The age there's no age limit to this, right?
Yeah, there's not. I mean, there is something called neuroplasticity, which is just how um it's like how your brain learns essentially, and we used to think that neuroplasticity was fixed and that that first, 3, especially 3 years, but 3 to 5 years, were, like, super the only time that you could form these new synapses, and it is true that that original, like, first 3 to 5 years are huge. You do form the most neuroplasticity in that time, but we have now discovered neuroplasticity is ongoing. So you can continue to form different pathways in your brain even into adulthood.
So cool. Okay, so what does attachment through play look like in a home environment?
For what age?
Let's do, like, 2 different sets. Let's do, like, under the age of 1, and then do, like you can choose, like, maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 years old or something like that.
Yeah, okay, cool. So under the age of 1 is really fun. It's kind of like in my mind, it's easy because it's a lot of, like, physical touch. It's really biological, like physical touch, eye contact, smell, comfort, like all of these things, and play looks really different in an under one-year-old, right? So, like, how are you playing with a two-month-old? You're not, like, playing a board game.
Mhm.
Um so this really does look like doing things that are developmental. So maybe you're working on maybe you've got flashcards that are like black and white, but you're smiling. You're putting those flashcards in front and you're smiling at them and you're making big faces, that kind of thing. And even if you're not doing the flashcards, you're like, what's that? I've never even heard of that. Um, it's that you're rocking them. You're putting that touch on them while you're moving in a rhythmic place. You're doing skin to skin. I'm sure most of us, maybe all of us, have heard of skin to skin. It's not just the mom, dad too. Those things work on a biological level to help your child form attachment, and so it's the child that gets sit down and not and, maybe they don't look at them a lot or they don't touch them a lot or they're not being rocked. Those are where we form insecure attachment.
Yeah, and that's a good, like, call out for me too because with having twins, there's very rare times where I'm holding both of them because it's hard to hold both of them right now, but then I have to think like, "Okay, who did I rock last? What did like, I'm trying to think through those different things, and I think they know that I love them. They're both very smiley and very, like, expressive, especially when I'm close to them. Um, but man, sometimes I'm like, did I
Well, you're in
even
the same room with them though.
Yeah, 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 for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Like, so there's other things. Like if you're listening to this and you're like Abby and you're like,
Yeah,
but I have 5 kids. Like I can't, whatever. Like I'm huge proponent of wearing children if you're physically able, but even your voice in the room. If you're going to put them down in the room. Let them hear you, let them smell you. Those kinds of things matter too.
yeah, that's good. Okay, so next, can you talk a little bit about how trauma might affect a child's ability to play?
Yeah, this can this is like broad because it can depend on what kind of trauma and what age the child is. But basically, when your child has experienced trauma, so whether that's like drug exposure, because that's a form of trauma, whether it's neglect, whether it is physical, emotional abuse, anything like that, your child is not going to respond. Their brain is not going to respond in the same way that a typical developed no traumatic experience child would. So for instance, If your child was, let's say they were neglected, they may not then they come into your home and you're trying to do all the things to form the bond, they may not respond. They may not look at you like another child would. They may not respond to your touch because their brain told them as a fight, flight, all the other ones response that when you cry, no one comes. So don't cry. Or when you cry, you get physically harmed. And so they've learned to be quiet. So these things are ingrained as they've experienced trauma. Drug exposure, it varies because it depends on the types of drugs and things like that, but it affects the way that their brain is processing information. And so certain drugs are going to make them heightened. So you may be rocking your baby and saying, "What's going on? I don't understand." But their body, their brain could be sending them signals like panic, panic, panic. You're moving too much because of that drug exposure.
Yeah, and I actually just heard of, a woman who she had a foster child in her home, and, she was saying, like, "Well, he won't sleep unless he's on me. Like, he has to be on me, he has to feel me, he has to know that I'm there." And so, my mind was kind of reeling with all these different things that we've talked about and, like, what are the reasons for this and all the different things, and so I wasn't, like, just gonna offer my whole book of ideas to her, but, I was really thinking about that, like, wow, who knows what, he had been through. I think he was like 4 months old. So who knows what he's been through up to this point, and she may not even know the whole story. And so she's just doing what she has to do, just holding this sweet little 4-month-old and sleeping when he sleeps, just propped up in a chair. So, yeah, there's so many different things.
Well, and
Okay.
it changes too, right? Because like as you get like as your as your baby, especially with like infants, well,
Yeah.
no, really any age, as your child is like getting that comfort, getting the forms, their brain is changing. And sometimes it can look real funky because then they're like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, why are they touching me all the time? Like, or like all, there's a lot of different ways that that can play out. But
It's like the whole, this is something that I felt like no one ever really told me before I had a child, that the how much things change. Like, you feel like you get a schedule, or you get like an idea of like, oh, he loves this pacifier and this blanket and this, whatever. And then one day all of a sudden he doesn't like it anymore. And you're like, wait a second. This just worked yesterday. Like, why isn't this working again? It's like they're changing and growing so much. So, yeah.
uh
Okay, back to that other question I asked you about, what does play attachment through play look like in the home for the older kids? Like, you had mentioned a board game with the younger, but what are some other things for, like, you could choose the age range, but like 8 to 10-year-olds is what I was thinking.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Home Study. If you've been enjoying the show, we'd love it if you could take a quick moment to leave a 5-star review and share this episode with a friend. These are the best ways to help more families find these conversations and join our community. Yeah, so we'll just say non-teen, right?
Okay.
Because that's kind of where it starts to change a little bit, or we're like preteen. But um, yeah, so what attachment looks like in play. The biggest thing is intentionality. So intentionality to listen to your child and the way that they in in their perception. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we come when we say like, "But I did this thing, but I did this thing." And what I want to ask the parent is, "But how did your child perceive that thing?" And you may not know, a lot of times we don't, but we need to figure that out because it may look like, we played a board game, but they hate board games, or like they really like find connection when you play video games. And you may be against video games or something like that, but you need to meet them where they are. So it can look like playing a game. It can also look like playfulness. So just, you know, being easygoing, listening to music together, reading a book together, just being intentional about those times. So, let me give you a really good example. You can turn the Alexa on with music and you can walk out of the room and your child can listen to music. Or you can turn it on, stay in the room, and sing together. Which one is going to be more connection building? The one where you're together. It's a
Good.
very simple adjustment, but it makes a huge difference to your child.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that example. We've been doing a lot of singing and dancing in the kitchen lately, so okay, so let's talk a little bit about like signs to look for. So, what are signs that a child may be dysregulated during play?
Well, that's a good question. Hyperness. So this is one that like this one's kind of subtle because you could be playing something like maybe you're like wrestling and all of a sudden they're like getting really giddy. That could be a sign that they're super dysregulated. And it goes from like regulated, 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 not baby talk. A lot of times like you'll have the child and they'll be like fine and then all of a sudden they'll like swap to like being like a baby. That can mean that they're feeling dysregulated. Not always, but it can be. I'm trying to think of some other ones, like irritability. This is obviously for kinda older kids. Babies would be, like, crying or just disassociating. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, those are good. So, how can parents use play to help a child move from that dysregulated state to more of a regulated state?
You know, the exact interventions that you do are gonna vary, but the one thing that I can say that's super consistent is you need to stop, just just assess for a minute. So, um, whatever you're doing, let's take like the giddy child, the one that's playing, and then all of a sudden they're like super giddy and kind of hyperactive. You don't want to start like throwing instructions at them. You kind of just want to stop, observe for a minute, lower your voice, and be like, "Hey, how are you feeling right now? What's going on?" Check in. A lot of times we want to make assumptions right away. Like, are you this? Is this going on? What are you doing? Do that. We want to be really curious and we want to be open and like lowering things down. And that can help because your child probably doesn't know what's going on. And you may never get to it either, but you also want to try to teach them to think through it or at least like stop and feel their body because that's part of teaching our children is to know when they are dysregulated. So, yeah.
I really like that because I mean, I'm definitely someone who like if I see that happening, I want to fix it rather than like stopping and observing first and then, kind of moving into that of like, okay, if you're feeling or if I like see that you're hyper and giddy there, like we'll just move to the next thing, like just bloop, move you out of
Right.
that and move to the next thing rather than like, wait, why is this happening? Even just asking myself that, I think like that's, just like stopping, observing my child, but also observing like what's going on around and yeah, just like taking a minute. I think that's good. Take a beat.
We all wanna be like the fixers. And I will
Yeah.
say too, sometimes when we just stop, they will regulate themselves.
Hmm.
Not all children need regulation every time or, like, need us to help intervene every single time. So sometimes, like, if you just slow down and you stop, they might actually go do something that's really regulating. Or they may need to get it out. Like, they may need to just be silly for a minute, and you just need to stop engaging. Be in the room, be present, but don't push in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really good because there's so many times where I mean, I either want to like give him we taught we have this like funny saying that it was someone, I think one of his caregivers at the Y maybe said this to him the first time of like, those are the geese over there. We need to give them their space. And so every once in a while we'll say like, "Hey bud, mom's like a goose right now. I need my space." And then he'll say it too, like, "I'm like a goose. I need my space." And so, yeah, there's times where I just want to like give him his space when he's feeling dysregulated, but I often will like walk away, like just kind of like leave him. And I'm like, "No, I need to like
Mhm.
make sure and just kind of observe like from a little further back, but like I can still just observe and like what's really going on here because I'm not going to go into all the stories of the last few days, but there have been some times where I'm like, what? What is happening right now?
Oh, don't I get that? We do something similar too. So I teach my kid we have a dog, and we're around animals pretty frequently, and I teach my kids to observe the behaviors of animals, and it's a really good way to teach them how to also see things in themselves and other people, but in like a just It's through play because animals, they like to play with animals, and then also it's just, like, takes the pressure off because it's not a person.
I like that. That's good. Okay. So how does movement-based play, like swinging or wrestling or whatever it might be, support emotional connection?
Well, it it goes into emotional, connection because of the sensory piece.
Mm,
So, when you're moving your body, your brain you are getting more regulated in general depending on the type of movement, and, that's gonna help you to feel more emotionally regulated because your sensory system is more regulated. So there are types of movement that are more regulating than others. So, for instance, swinging can be alerting, which isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes people think that's bad. Alert is not bad. Some kids need to be more alert. Um, but if you swing in a circle, like a rotary, like spinning, that is gonna like alert. And so if you have a very dysregulated kid, letting them spin around in circles, I would say more often than not is gonna not help, is gonna be unhelpful. But linear swinging back and forth is going to be calming. It's going to help them to feel, more emotionally regulated, more sensory regulated in general. So there's some things like that. General rules of thumb. Like I said, there's always exceptions, but linear swinging is more calming. Heavy lifting is calming. Running can be pretty alerting unless you're doing something like an obstacle course, and then doing all of these things together adds attachment, right? So, we can do these things on their own. We could sit back and say, go run some laps or go climb that. Or we can stand next to them and climb with them. Or we can even, if you can't do that or you don't want to do that, you could also just like sing a song with them. Like, I'm going to sing this song while you go up and down. Or, I'm going to set a timer for you. Let's see how fast you do it. Like, those are ways that you can connect without physically participating.
yeah, that's good. So, you have a swing inside of your house, right? Is there anything about, like, anything different in having, like, a swing inside versus outside and, like, different environments? Like, does the environment change what the impact could be?
Yeah, and the type of swing. We have, like, 10 swings, guys. Um, each of my kids have a swing in their room,
That's so
and then we have
fun.
a swing outside. Anyway, so yeah, so if you're swinging outside, then you're getting all of the outside stimulus. You're getting all
Mhm.
the feels, all the wind, the smells, all of that. If you're swinging in an upright swing, so think like a traditional swing, that's gonna be the most, like, confining, which can be good. Um, but if you're swinging like a well, you know how, like, they have, like, the saucer kinda swings, like the flat swings? Those, laying down is gonna be a completely different feeling. Some kids, that's gonna actually be very dysregulating. Some kids, it's gonna be great. So you need to think about that when you're thinking about swinging, like, what position you're in the room. The main thing that I like about the room is the accessibility. It's that they can go in their room. In our home, their rooms are their safe places. If you are feeling frustrated with me, with a sibling, anything like that, you can go in your room at any time and regulate yourself. And so I like having a swing in there because they can then self-regulate by swinging on the swing.
That's so good. I've been thinking about having swings either inside or at least in the garage as winter and cooler
Mhm.
weather approaches because Judah especially loves the swings, but the girls are starting to really love being outside and swinging too. So we need to come up with some indoor outside of
They
the
have doorway
elements
swings. They
solution.
have doorway swings too, like if you don't wanna put holes in your ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, those
But
are
the
fun.
kitchen is a really good one for the girls. I
I
know that sounds, like,
know.
so unconventional, but they do have really cute swings you can hang.
That would be really fun. I know they really enjoy the swinging. I remember Judah at this age really loved being outside and swinging too. So, okay, so you haven't really talked much about like toys and like things, which I actually really like. I mean, we just talked about the swings a little bit, but I see so many of these like, toy kits and like I'm not gonna lie, I have some of them kits and different things that like promise to give your kids like the exact type of toy that they need for their age, for their development, like all of that. So, while I'm not necessarily against those as a whole, I like how you have talked so far about like the intentionality for us as parents, no matter what is in the room, even if it's just an open space. So, talk a little bit about that. And then also, if you have recommendations of like a few things to have for a couple different ages, that'd be helpful too.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that there is not one toy in the world that a kid needs. And if you really think about it, if we are to say that, then we are saying that like the child that lives in poverty in a third world country could never develop or have connection, and that's not true. So your best toys are yourself and your creativity, like really. And if you're not creative, then we have the internet. So like um so I don't think that you have to have anything, and, I am more of a Montessori style. I do like natural elements. That doesn't mean we don't have plastic in my house or I don't buy toys. My in-laws and my mom and everybody, like, they buy us toys and we love them. Um, so I'm happy to give you guys recommendations, but I do want you to take away that there isn't anything that you have to have, and it can be really overwhelming. We're in a day and age of Instagram, Pinterest, all of these things, and it's really funny because I will walk into a home and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can predict I'm gonna open this closet and I know what toys are gonna be in there because they have been fed the Instagram algorithm."
Yep. Yep.
And that's
Even
nothing bad, honestly.
No, I know. Even like, okay, so we went to this super cute little, like, little town. They had like a little fall thing and they had this toy store. And I was like, yeah, let's go in the toy store. Let's just see, everything is like, I'm never going to pay full price for any of these toys. Like, if I see them at a yard sale one day, maybe, but they were like fancy toys. But I'm looking around and I'm like, I could see people's houses, like, as I'm, like, thinking of more like influencer type of people, not
Yeah.
necessarily like my friends, like you said. But I'm, like, thinking about it, I'm like, "Yep, they probably have all of these things because it's like they all fall in this color palette and they all," and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I think it's so cute, I love that, but I'm also thinking like, "Is this even what a child needs?" Like, my children would be so overwhelmed by having all of this accessible to them all the time. So, I feel like that's part of it too, of just, like, rotating stuff out or I don't know, something. There's all kinds of different
Yeah.
methods.
There's tons of methods and a lot so I will say the one thing that's really nice is I do feel like some of these toys have, like, better some of these, like, newer like, Love Every, like, things like that, like, I look at those toys and I'm like, "Yeah, those are good." Back in the day when we were raised with, like, a lot of the Fisher Price, they're really overstimulating. So, in general, especially, like, when we're talking, like, babies, younger kids, you wanna stay away from, like, a lot of these, like, super battery operated, flashing light, really noisy toys. Not always. There are places for them. I have a few that I used to bring into therapy sessions all the time, but in general, you don't want all of those all the time because they're just really stimulating. Um, but as a general rule, that Love Every if you've got a baby, like those are great toys. I do love
Mhm,
those toys. Um, what are some other things that I really like? Oh, balls are always good. But again, like anything can be a ball. Roll up some aluminum foil, you got a ball.
mhm,
And actually a really good ball because it's easy to hold on to. Um, anything like taggies, all of those are pretty good. As your kids get older, things that I look for, like in games, the look at the ages. Sometimes people overlook that, and that actually is really helpful. So if you're looking at a toy and it says like 6 plus and you've got a 4-year-old, don't get it. It probably has some concepts to that game that are going to be or toy that are going to be difficult. Um, anything that's going to promote pretend play for some of our like, we'll call it 2, 3 to really like 8, 10. You know, um things that are going to promote pretend play, puppets, dolls, um try to stay away from like gender specific toys because we do want all skills to go across all things. And so sometimes we can like just naturally gravitate towards like getting a doll for, girls and not for boys, but it's actually really, really good and helpful for little boys to have a doll so that they can practice the same things. Same thing with like cars for little girls. Like they also should, manipulate cars and run them down tracks and things like that because they are forming a lot of really good skills when they do those kinds of toys.
That's fun. And if you have a house full of boys, invite some girls over to play and then vice versa. So you can if you don't have all of those different types of toys, I think that's kind of fun too to get to see that.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you. That's very good. I'll tell you what I get 1-year-olds for their birthdays.
Ooh, okay.
And this is actually my mother-in-law got this for our kids, and I am like, "This is the best." So and this is not a cute toy. Well, sometimes I get a cute toy if I'm getting it as a gift, but I prefer the, like, non-cute one developmentally. So, you know those cars that you sit on? They don't have pedals, it's not a bike, it's a car, and you sit on them and they have, like, a little steering wheel, and you can ride them. And I like the ones that have a handle on the back. So you can sit on it, and you can drive it, and you can, like, use your feet to propel you forward. Sometimes the wheel turns a little, but you can also stand at the back and push it. Those are really great toys.
Yeah, that's great. I remember when Judah was having a hard time walking, like just I mean that he walked much later than what I had ever thought he would walk. And I was like, maybe I need to get him something to push. Like I mean, he was like 14 months old. He'd never had any kind of pushing toy. He had like a cushion that he sometimes would kind of like push along like a nugget cushion. He'd stand behind it and like kind of
Yeah.
push it along the floor. And I was like, honestly, it was because I didn't want one that had like all the lights and sirens and stuff that's all that I
Mhm.
had known or one that flipped over. There was like this really cute wooden Montessori one, and every time I saw a kid push it, it flipped over. I was like, "Oh, I'm not getting that." Finally got him one of these things to push, and he pushed that thing all over the place, and all of a sudden he was walking. And so I was like, "I should have had this for you for your first birthday."
It's crazy. They're really great, and the ones that have I like the ones that have a seat that comes up that you can put
Yeah,
stuff in it.
that's fun.
And you can for your, like, early walkers, you can put something heavy in it, and
Oh,
then it's more
yeah.
sturdy
Good ideas.
when they push it. But that toy is like my daughter's about to turn 4. She can, like, almost ride a bike, and she still likes that car toy.
Yeah, that's so cute. I love that. Okay, let's do maybe 1 or 2 more. I have, like, probably 12 more, but for time's sake, we'll do a couple more. I think this one is really important, and I think about this a lot. What is the difference between entertaining your child and connecting with your child through play?
I actually don't think there's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I think people have a negative connotation with entertaining because they're thinking like, "Oh, I'm entertaining them, like, so that they won't do something bad." Like, that's
Hmm.
kinda the gist of, like, I have to entertain them because, if I don't, they're gonna be bored and they're gonna bug me,
Or they're gonna be
right? Like, I think that
destructive or, like, something. Yeah.
yeah. But truthfully, if you're playing with your child, I don't care if you're, quote, "entertaining them" or not, like, you're playing with them, so you are forming connection. I guess unless you're, like, entertaining them by putting on a movie and walking away, that doesn't count,
Yeah, yeah, right.
But
Yeah, that's
I don't
good.
know, do you have thoughts about that?
Well, like, I think about it a lot when I'm wanting Judah to do a skill independently. So, like, even if it's like we're playing a board game, like we have this one Count Your Chickens game that he just loves. And it's actually I think like one of my tips for especially as kids get older is like if you want to connect with your child, find things that you like to do that they also like to do. And I love playing games. So I was like, we're gonna get board games and like even just little ones like this it's basically a cooperative game. You're not trying to beat each other. You're just trying to like get to the same end goal. Anyways, so I'll like, want him to, learn the skill of like spinning the spinner and like moving the chickens and like doing playing the game. And he just wants me to spin the spinner over and over and over. Like it's he doesn't want to take a turn. He wants it to be always my turn. And so in those moments, I'm like, I'm just entertaining you. Like we're not actually playing, like we're not actually doing anything. But I mean, for him, he's probably thinking about it. And he's like, I'm connecting with you just the same, mom. Like it doesn't matter. So
Okay, I love that you brought this up because you're not connecting the same, you're connecting better.
yeah,
Because
that's
when
good.
we force our own agenda on them, it's not as good of a connection.
True.
So it is better for you to spin that spinner over and over and over and over again than it is to be like, "No, Judah, no, 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 now it's my turn. Nope, nope,
Mm,
stop. My turn, my turn." He'll learn. He'll get it,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's good. That's good. And I mean, even, toys like, well, this is one I think Josh would be fine with me sharing this. We have this magnetile marble run. And like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
advanced. Like it probably is ages, 6 and up or
Yeah.
whatever it's supposed to be. But he got it as a gift or we asked for I don't even know how it got into our house, but it's here. And he loves this marble run, but he can't build it himself. So we have to build it for him, and it's hard. Like, it's hard for me to put this thing together because I'm, like, balancing it and, the whole thing, and then it crashes down and whatever. But he really wants us to build it, and so he'll sit there and he'll watch us put it all together, and then he'll send the marble down, and there's moments where Josh especially, but I feel it too. I'm like, "Well, I don't wanna build this marble run right now. Like, I want you to build it. Like, you build a simple one. Like, you do it." And we're just that's kind of another way I feel like I'm just entertaining you. Like, you're not actually doing anything, but he's sitting there watching us the whole time. So,
So if that's your definition of entertaining, then I would say there is no such thing as entertaining.
yeah, that's so good. I'm
Yeah, because
guys,
I
I'm
mean, he's
learning so
watching you.
much.
He's watching you, he's learning things, and also kids often need to be taught how to play, especially our kids that have experienced a lot of trauma before they've come to us. You know, they come in, you've got a 7 or 8-year-old, and they don't know how to build a tower. They've never seen someone build a tower. They don't know what to do with those blocks. You know what they're gonna do with those blocks? They're gonna throw them. Because they don't know. They don't know how to build. How do you know how to build? Because you've seen someone do it.
Mhm.
There are very few things in life that are innate, you know. And so they do need to see it. And so Judah watching you build that over and over. And I think a lot of times it goes back to too, like you're giving a definition of fun based on your own definition, not on his. You're saying it's fun to do it yourself. This is fun, building it, not watching someone build it. But he may be like, no, watching it is fun,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know. Also, a little trick, if there are things like that where the toy is, like, too old, I usually will try to hide it and put it away and only bring it out, like, out of sight, out of mind, only bring it out if they specifically ask for it because it can cause a lot of frustration for adults as well.
Yeah. Well, it was hidden for a long time, and then
And then it came out.
for a variety of reasons, it came back out.
I understand.
No, I think he saw one somewhere else or did something. It's really not
He's like,
important. That
"Wait,
is
where's mine? Where's my marble run?"
yeah, that is a great tip though. We have a lot of toys that are hidden way up in high bins that he will see one day, maybe.
We do too. And we also have brought them out, and I'm like, "Yep, you can just see how frustrating this is.
Yeah.
Okay, now all done."
Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and end unless you have anything else. We can end with this. Just an encouragement to parents who feel a guilt or, feel guilty for not naturally enjoying playing with their kids.
I Yeah, I think that one thing I would encourage you is that it doesn't need to look like what you think it looks like. I think for a lot of parents, they think if I'm not enjoying building Legos with my child, or I don't enjoy the video game, or I don't enjoy the marble run or whatever, then I can't enjoy my child. And that's because you have a picture in your mind of what this should look like, and it's not meeting that expectation. And what do we always say? Expectations are not always reality, right? Expectations versus reality. And so I would say you need to reshape the way that you view it because there are so many ways to play with your child that are like expand your view of that. Like we mentioned in the beginning, listen to a song, read a book. Those are play too. Read a book you like, you know, and let them see you enjoy things because if they only ever see you work and sleep and watch TV, they're only going to want to do those things too. Let them see something that you like. If you love Taylor Swift, blast that music and dance, you know? I love rock climbing. My kids see me go rock climbing every Tuesday. Today, this is like perfect example. Today, I bought them a harness and I hooked it up to them
So
and
fun.
they quote climbed, you know? And they just want to do it because I do it and they see how much I enjoy it. So redefine what it looks like and you will feel so much less pressure. You know, that would be my encouragement.
Yeah, and like you had said way back at the beginning of this episode, even things like allowing your kids to hear your voice, being in the same room as them. You may be, reading your own book, but you're sitting there on the floor with them, or you're like looking up and smiling, or you're talking on the phone, or whatever you're doing, but allowing them to just be near you too and just join in the things that you're doing. I bring Judah along to cook with me a lot because I don't always love I'm one of those parents who, like, I don't always love being on the ground or running around the yard aimlessly or whatever it might look like for him at that moment, and so we might do that a little bit, and then it's like, "Okay, let's go. I'm gonna go make some cookies. You wanna help me make cookies?" Or,
Yeah.
whatever we're doing, just things like that, and yeah, I think some of it, even though I wouldn't have put it in those words, it's I want him to see me doing the things that I love and the things that I enjoy just the same. So, that's good.
Yeah, intentionality is so key. A couple examples I'm even thinking of that are kind of like people don't see it as connected. Go shopping together. If you like to shop, go shopping together, Um, like you said, read a book. You don't have to read the same book. Like you could just be reading books beside each other, cheering on the same sports team is connecting. If you both like, that same like a football team and you watch that together or watching a show together is connecting. So find little things if your child's a little older and they are really into art, you can even just buy them something for their art. Hey, I saw this new paint set. I thought you would really enjoy it. That's connecting. Like you
Mhm.
made a connection there. Hey, I thought about you. I got this special thing for you. Would it be okay if I sat and watched you paint? Little things like that. Redefine your definition of play and know that it's much broader than you think.
So good. Cool. Thanks so much for answering all my questions.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. I'm so happy to. Um, yeah, so you guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode today. And if you do want a little more information on attachment, go back to our previous episode. We talk a little bit more about like the different types of attachment styles. And so there might be some overlap, but there's also some new information in that episode as well. And as always, if anything we said today made you laugh, cry, or feel seen, please share this episode with a friend. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.